Now please recognize the gentleman from New York, Mr. Mr. Langworthy, for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Vilsack, I appreciate you being here once again as we continue to craft an effective farm bill that supports our family farmers and reduces the regulatory burdens of this administration. But before I get into that, I want to bring to your attention an issue that is still impacting my district in rural upstate New York. As you may recall, just about a year and a half ago, in December of 22, Winter Storm Elliott ravaged my district in western New York and across the southern tier. And this was a once-in-a-generation storm that brought unprecedented blizzard-like conditions and sub-zero temperatures to the western New York community. Winter Storm Elliott also wreaked havoc on the dairy industry, resulting in the closure of dairy plants and extensive dumping of milk. Farmers in my district faced the grim reality of being unable to have their milk collected and delivered, compounding an already dire situation. I do recall that USDA set up a milk loss program, and I appreciate the efforts that the department has made with the rollout of milk loss payments to producers in my district. However, I understand there's also a pending component of the program to reimburse cooperative loss. And as you know, dairy cooperatives play a vital role in strengthening and supporting the well-being of family farm operations in my district and nationwide. And with that, Mr. Secretary, I was wondering if you had an update or a timeline that you can share today on when those cooperative losses will be made available, and if the department has made any progress on that. I'm interested in anything this committee can do to support you in this effort and help move this along.
Let me get a specific answer to that question, Congressman. As I sit here today, I don't know specifically about the status of that. I thought you were going to ask me about the dairy margin coverage program, and I have a response to that question, but not to this one.
Well, I mean, our farmers have been without payment for, almost a year and a half now, and this is ridiculous. It's concerning to me that, we have had no reimbursement for cooperative losses that have been made at all, and equally troubling is the lack of communication to producers in my district regarding a timeline or updates prior to today's hearing. So it's really important that we get this information to share with our constituents, and it's important to me that, our farmers feel that they've been communicated with. And they've been left in the dark at this point by the department. Our agricultural producers, they're already struggling with this administration's egregious green agenda and the regulatory policies that are causing our energy prices to skyrocket, and it's put farmers' backs against the wall. And this, can also run them right out of business. So all I ask you to do today is to expeditiously use all the tools that the department has to get an answer and get these payments moved forward. And I think that's a very important step for the farmers in my district. Now, moving on to a different topic, Mr. Secretary. Last year, Dr. George Koob, the director of National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, suggested in an interview that the next version of our dietary guidelines for Americans might change the definition of moderate alcohol consumption to just 2 alcoholic drinks per week for men and women. Now, that would be a dramatic change from the current definition of up to 2 drinks per day for each man and woman, which is included in the DGA's release of December 2020. Does the USDA share Dr. Koob's suggestion that drinking more than 2 beers a day is excessive? And if so, can the USDA point to any new scientific studies released since December 2020 that would justify such a dramatic change in that definition of moderate consumption?
Frankly, our focus on the dietary guidelines is on the dietary guidelines and not things that are necessarily outside or being considered outside of the dietary guidelines. We want to make sure that it's science-based. Whatever is decided needs to be science-based, and that's why you set up a system with experts. You give experts the information. They make decisions based on the preponderance of the evidence. We want to make sure that that system is followed, whether it's alcohol or any other aspect of our diets. We want to make sure it's science-based. That's what I'm committed to doing.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, well, I understand this process is developing the 2025 dietary guidelines. That is well underway right now. I just ask that any recommendation is based on sound science and not the usual regulatory overreach that we've seen by this administration. My additional question, I'm not going to have enough time for. I'm going to submit to you in writing. And Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentlelady.